Pencil power. Why, hello there, art venturers. In this video, we'll be talking about how to add clothing, armor, swords, all sorts of stuff to your character's figure using reference. And some tips and tricks there, and kind of the process that I use. So that would be cool to demonstrate by doing a actual, making an actual character together. And so let's generate a random class to make this thing a little more interesting. A monk. Okay, that can work. Fine, let's do it. So we probably won't be talking too much about armor in this one, but that's good, I think, because armor probably deserves its own uh, episode, its own video. I love to call these videos episodes for some reason. So let's go ahead, and we're going on Pinterest. Let me actually just start with a very basic 3/4 view figure, which is what there's is kind of a follow-up video to that process, and I'll put all those videos in a playlist together in order on how, like, building up on drawing a muscular figure, so that if you want to follow along step by step, you can do that. Otherwise, just draw like a basic figure. I'm gonna just do like very simple 3/4 view kind of vibe, and I want to keep things simple just so that, maybe I'll put an arm there, but for now I'll just leave it down. Just so that we can focus on the clothing and stuff. Okay, cool. So the first thing, if I have some ideas in mind of what I want it to look like, I might look for more specific reference. But here I'm just looking at monk, and I'll just kind of choose something that looks cool. It can be from a photograph or a drawing for this kind of method. I think it's good to study both. So we've got the Shaolin kind of thing. I kind of like this guy over here. So let's not overcomplicate it, and let's just say we want to have a kind of that outer jacket like this guy. So the first tip I would say is to always make sure that you're using almost always curved lines to accentuate the form. So not like doing stuff, not too many straight lines. The only times there'll be straight lines if something's right at your eye line. Then yeah, technically it'll be straight. But even then I would try to find a way just to give it a subtle curve, because that really shows the shape of the form a lot more, and allows your figure to feel more three-dimensional. So you can see here this guy's facing the other way, so maybe I'll actually just flip this so that it's kind of a more one-to-one reference. But I'll also show you when you want to use something but you're not seeing it from the exact angle. Now I see this guy looks like he's leaning back a little too much. Now that I've flipped my canvas, don't flip your canvas if you don't want to see your mistakes. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. All right, that should be good enough. All right, cool. So using these curved lines here and looking at the biggest shape. So I know there's a curved line here, and then I'm actually seeing this other piece as a second shape. So I'll do a second curved line and just connect those, and just really looking at the big shapes. And then here you can see like the belt there is pretty much a straight line because the eye line is somewhere around there. Um, but you can add just a little curve like that, for instance. And maybe that's a little too thick for the belt area. And usually actually I'll do this on a new layer, because I'll have the figure underneath, and then I can put all this stuff on top on a new layer. Okay, and then what other shapes am I seeing here? So looking for like the big shape. So this is almost like a triangle. There's a lot more going on, but let's just put it down as a triangle. Here's a little triangle, right? This is also another triangle coming down there. And I don't want to copy his whole outfit, so I'm going to leave it at that. We'll do something different maybe for the arms. I don't know. We'll figure something out. And yeah, so I've already gotten this, and now I can come in and add a little more detail if I want. And you'll learn to like give the clothes a little space around that underlying figure. So don't make the shirt kind of go exactly over the figure. it will have a tiny bit outside, right? And then the part where it's hanging, it might hang even further. So that's why I like drawing that figure underneath is very helpful. Cool, let's combine with another reference. Let's kind of maybe just scroll down, see other stuff similar to that. So like let's say I'm like, oh cool, I like this front guard thing that the guy has. So here are like 3 squares. And this square is divided into smaller squares. And usually maybe save the pins that you're using the reference from so it's easy to go back. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm just kind of having fun. And I like that thing in the middle. What is that? That's maybe like one of these shapes, basically. And then it comes down like that. So two shapes, I might think of it. And the other thing is to, now I've got to remember that my center line is over here, right? So actually all that needs to be moved over a bit. So just go ahead and do that. Maybe like that. He's facing a lot more forward than my guy. So this is where like knowing your shapes kind of comes in handy and working with 3-dimensional shapes, because now I'm kind of turning these, I'm showing a little more of the side. But the main thing is those main shapes are pretty much the same, square, square, you know. And let's give him a shoulder thing like this guy, but I'll do it on this shoulder. So I'm going to look at the shapes and just kind of translate over and keeping a mind on the curve there. You can put 1, then there's 2, this one's bigger, and there's a third one, and then 2 smaller ones, which I'll imagine will go something like that. So you know it's not perfect, but I'm starting to build this character out, and I can go over it on a new layer and really clean up all the details. Let's just find some shoes or feet. How about this guy? That's cool. So he's got like one piece that goes like this, and then his pants come out more. There's actually like a little metal piece. The pants come out more like that. And you know, these are the basic shapes here. There's this cool stripe on the feet. So actually see this one I did kind of straight. Let me actually give that some curves like that. All right. Sometimes you'll have to experiment to see how the curve would look. With experience, you know, it comes faster because you kind of done the curve before. But at first, you might need to, you know, do a couple to see which one really brings out the form the most. And there's something like triangular hanging down in the front. And keeping in mind the center line. This is the center line here. The center line on this is over there. So that'll kind of help me align my image, my thing. And then from here, you know, it's just a matter of refining. So the one other thing that I'll share here is a few tips on folds. So folds can be really like do a lot of different things. It can be very complicated and tricky. So I'm just going to show like I think 3 different kinds of folds and like a really simple trick to start putting it in there. So one type is where things are getting um like pinched, you know, like pulled in. So on this figure, for example, that'll be the belt holding the shirt, and down here with the, so then what will, you know, the simple thing to do is just to add these lines like that. So you can just add like a couple lines varying the length and having it, you know, taper in the same direction as the cloth. And then another little tip is, unless it's tucked in really, really tight, to just give a little V kind of triangle at the end. So I'll do it here too to give an example, like that, right? It's kind of a little bit looser. The next one that I want to talk about is when something's bent. So like an elbow, and then it's again very similar to this, but we want to also keep in mind if there's a form underneath, maybe we do those curved lines to really show that form. So where is this happening here? Let's say, you know, it's not really, am I not seeing anywhere? Well, if, if there is an arm coming out here, let's say, then we'd, and there's a sleeve, we could see it right here. And then the third type of fold is where like pants bunch up at the bottom. When something's bunching. And so for this, it's all about the V's. All right, so you've got V's on the outside like that. And then opposite facing V's on the inside. You can add a couple more lines and stuff too, but that's, I think, the easiest trick to get started. So then, when you start to vary the size of those V's and put a little shading in, you can get a bit of a scrunched up thing. So maybe I can do that here instead. So that's if the pants were like kind of tucked in and pulled in. If they're kind of a lot of cloth here and they're bunched up, you might get something more like this, or a bit of that's the thing, it'll be like a combination. So that's where things get more complicated. But just to simplify, you could put something like that. Cool, and that's basically it. Oh, and then also for cloaks when they're wrapping around, so this is another one. There's a line that they're following from behind, right? So let me just make another figure here to give a clearer example. So if there's a figure and it's wearing a cloak, at the bottom, there's like a C-shaped line like that the cloak's making. And then if you connect the points, the ends and the edges, it'll come up and be like that. So you often see with drawings like a cloak have some corner like that, and that's because this line is continuing through, but you only see the behind and the edge. So for here, this is maybe going like that, or I might have it, you could have it like that. You can kind of mess around and see what works, but maybe just adding a little bit. Maybe it's coming like this and there's a bunch of extra cloth doing something. I don't know, but that's something to think about when you're, designing your cloaks or adding stuff like that. For this one, I actually liked it the way it was before, so I'm just going to leave it. Or maybe I'll show a little bit back here. Cool. So that's it. So you can use the same process to put a basic form down, find cool bits of reference that you like, and start building out a character. The same would go with the weapon. Just go look at its basic shapes, put those basic shapes down, and then you can come over and refine afterwards. So right now, to finish this piece, I might lower the opacity of the figure, go on a new layer with an even smaller brush, and start, laying down more detail in all the different areas. And maybe add like some more little folds and stuff like that. Cool, so that's it. Hope this episode was helpful. Also, if you're interested in customized one-on-one art mentoring, I'll leave a link to that in the description, and I'll also leave a link to the playlist that has the rest of the videos in this series. And that's it. I hope you guys have a great day and that this video has imbued you with just a little bit more pencil power. And I just thought I'd share the finished sketch with just a little bit of shading underneath.